Get started. So before we start, let's go to our friend the internet. Okay. And I'm going to type in desmos.com.
This actually just took like 15 seconds and my thing's already clean.
Okay. So this is a way, if it doesn't make sense to you when I explain it, this is a way of going through your homework, right, and checking if you're right. So if you have access to this at home, there's also an app. I have the app on my phone and stuff, and we're going to be playing around with it on the Chromebooks and stuff in the future, because just doing graphing like this gets really boring after a while, right? So here, once you get to Desmos, you can say start graphing, okay? And as you'll see, I have my graph paper here. So do you see how I have graph paper? And on the left-hand side, I can write like hello class, random things. I can also write equations like y is equal to 3x, right? So we haven't ever visualized these things that we're doing, but that's where we're headed, okay? Does that make sense? So before, if I hide this here, have we all seen something like y is equal to 3x before?
Yep.
We've seen that in algebra. But do we have any idea of what that means in real life? No, right? But another way of understanding it, Sierra, right? Another way of understanding it is visualizing it with a graph. So you know how I said a graph just displays information, right? So now you can see, this won't make sense to you, but if I show it, this is what y equals 3x means, okay? We're going to go into that. Okay, and we're going to study it, but that's at the end. Okay, I want to show you what's at the end so that it makes sense as we go through the steps.
Crooked, it's wrong.
So we're going to go through that. Okay. So for today, what we're going to be doing is this worksheet here. Okay. And as we go through the worksheet, we're not going to be embarrassed and we're not going to be shy for asking questions. I'm going to teach you and see how much you guys know. So we're going to do it together. It's not a.
Hey, is that my paper?
Yeah, just erase it. I only have one copies.
I realized you did something like this in grade 6.
Okay.
I'm so good.
So you might have done something like this in grade 6. So here I write my name. So if you're starting on a fresh new piece of graph paper, just write worksheet. Okay, number 1.
Number 1. Talk about the graph sheets you were talking about.
Okay. Yeah. Or if you want to write it on paper, if you have your own graph paper, be my guest, right? But if not, I'll try to do my best to give you guys some. So this is worksheet 1. We're starting graphing. What's that?
Hashtag. Now I'm not.
No one else here?
Well, who
I
wants
heard
it?
it, but I thought. What's the website that we have to go?
Oh,
Miss Teacher. Yeah, called it. I knew it.
okay.
What's the website that we're supposed to go?
Desmos. DESMOS.com.
I don't have a phone.
So if you don't, right,
And I just downloaded
this is something to help you out.
Oh, graphic.
You can. I'm on my computer now, right? So you can do it there too.
Graphic calculator?
What?
Graphic calculator?
Yeah, that's probably more clear, right? Okay. So before we even start question 1, what I want to do is look through this graph and see where we're at. So what we understand, okay? So if I look at this graph here, I ignore the dots, okay? What do we remember about graphs? So there's a y-axis. So which one is my y-axis?
Going straight up. Vertical.
So my y-axis, this is written as y here. So up and down is y-axis. Okay?
And then there's an x-axis.
So as Connor said, there's also an x-axis. Okay? So on your papers, are the x and y already written?
No.
They're not written, but are the lines there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't have to draw it. But if I give you blank paper, are you going to have to draw the x and y?
Yeah.
Right? You'll have to draw the x and y. Okay. So do we often get confused about which one's y and which one's x? Probably.
No.
Okay, because I do.
I
Okay, because when we said it at the beginning, you said that y was left and right.
said wait.
Okay,
Oh, I think so.
right? So a way to remember is that if you draw out your y like this, okay, and then you add in some fancy drawings, because I'm like a visual guy, you know? I like to see like letters sometimes as pictures, so it helps me remember. So here I draw it as a rocket, okay? Up into space. The moon is here if you want to add, right?
This is my favorite.
And which one does a Y go up? Up and down, right? A rocket goes up and down. It doesn't go left and right.
That's what I just said.
Okay? So if ever you forget and you wrote out Y, just draw your Y. And you'll look at the Y and you'll be like, oh, I remember when he said it looks like a rocket. Rockets go up and down. Okay? The other way I remember is X.
Oh my god.
Okay? Is when you squish an X, okay? Well, I told Bo a long story yesterday,
Come on.
right? But it's about like a sumo that goes to space, right? It's such a random story. But an X, right, is like almost like fat like a sumo wrestler. You know how sumo wrestlers are like wide like that, right? Have you ever seen a sumo wrestler before? Yeah? So X, right, is like wide. Okay? So X means from left to right. That's just to remember Y and X. Okay? But if we're there, then we're already pretty good. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So Y is up and down. X is left and right. Okay? So here, sometimes we'll have something written, for example, in the format X, Y. Okay? So you can draw that on your paper or write it on your paper. So left bracket X, comma, Y, right bracket. Okay? So what is this called?
Brackets.
This is called a coordinate. So the most famous example of graphing is like Battleship. So if you've ever played Battleship before and you're playing with your siblings or your friends and it's like, oh, I attack on B3 and it's like, you sunk my battleship. And then, anyways, if you've ever played it before, okay,
I'm the one that talks.
right?
Sound very energetic.
You just move your boat and then you click that, you tell it, and then it shoots.
Well, I've never played that advanced version. I played in the old version with the plastic chunks and you had to like stick it everywhere, right? But that's graphing. That's the exact same thing. You can play Battleship, you can graph.
But it's fun, so.
Yeah. So imagine we're playing Battleship. Okay.
Just without that.
Okay.
I like the movie better.
With Rihanna.
Ew, no.
That was such a bad movie, but I really like it
Only
too.
because she was in it.
Oh, let's see.
Rihanna's kind of shit.
Bo has a crush on Rihanna.
But
Okay.
is it true there was a
That's
So-
totally not
A
true.
coordinate is always written out as X first and then Y second. So here, the X always comes first, the Y always comes second. Okay? And why is that? Because it's alphabetical order. So if you go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X,
Y.
Y.
And Z.
okay? So X comes before the Y. So if ever you don't know, then you can remember it's alphabetical order. Okay? You can write it on your memory aid.
Why didn't they just
Okay,
use
I would
A
write
and
this-
B?
I haven't heard anything on my memory yet, so.
Okay? So this is your x-axis. So here are going to be your x values. Your y-axis here, the rocket, is going to be your y. Okay?
Why not?
Jaden? Today's a fresh day, right? We're starting something new. I don't want you to miss out.
Brand new.
Okay? So if I give you the coordinate, okay, 5, 5. Okay? Let's start with that. So that's my coordinate. Well, I'm going to do it with you guys.
Okay, so that's
So my logic, when I do this, okay, you'll see it's amazing. I start with x first. My first 5 was with x, right? Do you see that? If I write it up here. You won't see it on the screen when you watch it at home. But our first one here is x comma y. Okay? In my new one, 5 comma 5. So my x is related to this 5, and this y is related to this one. We'll do another example after. Okay? So here, x is equal to 5. So what I do, which one's my x-axis? Up and down?
No,
Side to side. It's the fat sumo, right? That got squished. Okay? So we start here at 0, and is it plus 5 or minus 5?
plus 5.
So which direction should I head in?
Right. Yeah.
Or is this 5?
That's
That's
negative.
negative.
That's negative 5. So which side should I go on instead?
Right.
Right. So here I have, okay, so it's 2, 4, and 6. Does 5 exist here?
No, but you go on between the 5 and
So
6.
you go, right, very good, Sierra. You go between the 4 and the 6. So halfway between 4 and 6 is 5. Okay? So I just did the first 5. Then the second 5 is the y. So is y left and right?
Up and down.
No, it's up and down. So I'm already here at 5, and then my finger is going to slide up to positive 5. Okay? So I'm here at 5, and then after I go to 2, 4, oh no, there's no 5 here. So what do I do again?
You're gonna make a 5.
So I make a 5 in between. So you can see right here,
In the middle of the square.
right there is my 5, 5. Brian, can you sit up, please?
What's the equation?
So there's no equation now, I'm just doing one coordinate. So 5 comma 5, is that where my finger was?
Do I not write that down? Yeah.
Is that where my finger was?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can label this, right, as coordinate number 1. Okay? We're going to do another one together. Okay? Brian, what's your favorite number?
21.
21?
So
Can
I
you
just
pick
my
a
birthday.
smaller number? Below 10?
Either 6 or 9.
Okay. So we're going to go with 7.
Wow, Brian.
We're going to go with 7. And then Brian, we're going to go with your 6.
Oh wait.
So our first coordinate is here. Our second coordinate is here. All I'm doing is that I wrote out coordinates for you. These mean nothing. But what we're doing is practicing on how to graph them.
What, write it on the paper?
Yeah, you should be doing it on your paper.
What if I told you
So here, what do I do? I want you guys to tell me. Imagine I give you the coordinate 7, 6. Where would you put it?
Oh, this.
Who can tell me the first step? Who can tell me the first step to graphing 7, 6? Maurice.
Look for 7 on X.
So my x-axis is up and down or left and right?
Left and right.
Left and right. So Maurice said to look for Morris.
Yeah. Morse.
Well, it's just my.
Maurice.
Sorry, Morris.
There you go. Morse.
Morris said to look for which number, the 6 or the 7?
The 7.
So the 7, right? Because the 7 is taking up the space of the x. So we're going to go over here, 2, 4, 6, so there's no 7. So I'm in between. You guys are picking good numbers. And then what do I do once my finger's at 7?
69.
You move over.
You go up to 6.
So why would I go up to 6? Where is positive 6 on the on the y-axis? It's at the top, right? The y-axis is like a thermometer, right? Have you ever seen a thermometer before? Right? It's positive at the top and negative at the bottom. You're not going to say, oh, it's minus 15 degrees and look at the top of the thermometer, right? That makes no sense. Okay? So here I'm at 7, and I'm going to go up 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay? So my finger is at 7, 6. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to do it on here, and the computer is going to tell us if we were right. 7, comma 6.
Your night.
Is that where we were?
Yes.
So this is coordinate number 2. Okay.
So how do we get the one that you're on now? Mine's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
What do you mean 1, 2, 3?
Like you know how yours says.
Oh, because it's just zoomed in or out.
Oh, okay.
So if I zoom in, you'll see that now I see the numbers one by one. But I wanted you guys to remember that if it's not written, it's in between two numbers. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, okay, is that I'm going to tell you this one, and you're going to do it yourself. Okay? And then we'll see how many of us got it right, how many of us got it wrong, and if we need more help, then we're going to keep practicing. Okay? So we're going to do a little bit of a harder one. Okay? I want you to do -3, 2. Okay. If you get stuck, you can ask your partner. They can help you.
I don't have a partner. Oh yeah.
Then but both should be able to figure this one out. So -3, +2.
Alright. What is this? Y or?
So you tell me. Because a test or an example or a piece of information in real life could be written out like this.
Wait, what's the number?
-3 and then 2.
I hate this game.
I want you to do the third one. -3, comma 2.
Comma. Wait. Why?
There's commas and coordinates.
I have no idea what you're talking about now.
Here, Bo.
You lost me.
Here, 5, comma 5. It's to split the numbers.
So it's the centering number to this.
X coordinate.
Look here. My coordinate, x, comma y. Do you see that? Bo, I think you need to move up.
No, I can see.
X, comma y. Two different numbers, right? So here 5, I split up my 5 and my other 5. Just two numbers. You don't need a calculator. We're not going to touch a calculator.
What we did yesterday.
Because now we're just grasping points, which is easier than what you did yesterday.
Well, this sounds harder than what I did.
Because in your table that we did yesterday, remember we had an x and a y?
Yeah.
That's all I'm doing. So my x is -3 and my y is 2. Grab it. Put a -3 and a 2. X is -3, y is 2.
Okay, I got the answer.
I did the one. It's just, I don't know. So try to answer up again.
-3 and 2.
Now, would it be fixed?
On the line.
It would be on the line.
So it's 1,
It's 6. I can wait. I can do this. Yeah, I can know it's because you but we did it like 3 or 4 Brian, no! Wait, what?
My mom knows this.
I mean, you have the right idea. It's just,
And Ricky is bad.
no, it's not.
Ricky is bad. No.
Yeah, there's no numbers on it.
Morris, breaking things is bad for the environment.
Or here.
No, Morris.
Yeah.
Morris, why
And
are you
he's
breaking it?
ignoring this.
And look at Morris May.
Maybe Brian just wanted to just.
Please stop. Right, turn around. Look what I have.
Yeah, I
So
see.
from
That's
here,
what I
this
have
is
to
0, then it goes -1, -2,
Oh,
-3.
yeah. And here's your negative 3 and here and then it.
Yeah.
Or are you doing 4 6?
I just put it, I was supposed to get a case the day afterwards I got it. And it's been
Yeah,
on
that
the
doesn't you have to do it the other way.
or screen detector.
Your numbers have to go to I got that -2, -4, -2. Or else like it changes your
Mark. Another question like.
Did you get it?
Alright.
Alright, any. One should not be
Okay,
I'm
that's
confused.
not Brian. Do you think that this is okay?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Morse got it.
Break the dice. No, it was Morris.
Wasn't me. Yeah,
You already started breaking it.
It was already
You took it off.
Okay, so the first point was -3, then 2. So you should have gotten something here. Okay?
Oh yeah, I got it right.
So here I went. Let's zoom in.
I'm still confused.
I'm the greatest inventor of all time. I invented time.
So here I'm at 0, and my x-axis is left and right.
7, 6.
If you don't get it, I'll explain it to you. Right? Your x-axis is left and right. So am I going to go in the positive direction or negative direction? Negative, because it's -3. So I go -1, -2, -3. Do you see where my mouse is at -3? Then after 2, am I going to go up 2 or down 2? With my 2, am I going up 2 or down 2? Up. 1, 2. So my coordinate is -3, 2. Okay. Okay. How does this feel?
Good.
Good. That's
So now I want us to do, okay, can you all like listen so I don't have to write it, or do you want me to write it? I want you to do -4, -2. Okay? -4, -2. All right, John?
don't even
You don't.
switch up colors. Trying to kill her.
This is number 4.
Thank you, God.
-4, -2. I want to see something big.
God. Trying to kill her.
Where's your
Please
-4,
help
-2?
me.
Do you have a problem?
No.
So how many did you go?
You have a problem, Monty?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Right, turn him out. Did you find it? Yeah. Turn him out. No. Do you know what time it is?
I do know what time it is, but I also know that it's time for you to solve this question, right?
I didn't know that. Oh, I already solved it. Oh, we're doing number 4?
-4, -2.
Ease.
And I want to see it. You're gonna say it's easy. I want to see it.
Why can't we do something like this?
Yeah, quickly.
I completed it.
The same graph.
That's fine.
You don't have the accent.
But it's too quiet. So what's your scale?
God, that's why we
Melina, how did you find it?
I hear that.
Easy?
I finished it. I did it with my eyes closed.
So what's your scale? How much is each block worth?
That didn't make sense. You don't make sense. No wonder why
Okay.
I'm in this one.
So the answer for this one was -4, -2, which is down here. Okay? So I went -4, -2. Some of you, this is coming really fast, but some of you, it's also taking some time. And that's okay. This is day 1. But if you feel like it's already going too fast, then do we stop or do we keep going?
Keep going.
That's what she
We
said.
stop.
Oh my, did you?
So how do we feel? Good, medium, or bad?
Good.
So I can give you any numbers and you're good?
Yup.
Maybe you should go to one with the zeros. Zeros I find.
Yeah.
No!
So they're glitchy.
No, that beat me on the zero.
So you're gonna do I can't do it like that.
Eddie.
Me neither.
So you're gonna do, let's do 2, 0.
Damn it, I didn't get my words.
Okay?
Yeah, I got my answer
Wait,
right.
Right,
Same
same thing.
2, comma 0.
What time is it?
So remember the order, and remember my story about the sumo that goes to space.
My God, this is fun.
Wait, was it 2-0 or 0-2?
2, 0. I'll write it down for you.
Oh no, I think I'll do it.
Let me.
Remember, that's not first, and then what?
2, comma 0. Sometimes you'll see 0 written like this too. That's more rare.
That usually means like no vowel or something.
Yeah.
That's another word for it.
Oh my God, I just have to guess at literally 3 words.
Which you can try first. So which is first, the X or the Y?
All of the above.
So then would I go left
What's
2
your
or right 2?
I don't understand.
Because this,
Right?
the
So
0
you go
I feel like
2
that.
and then 0. So it's
So it's there.
how much is it?
I said it's
How about you, Ryan? Those markers are not to be used on your desk.
Oh my.
Where'd you get 2, 0? You didn't even do it,
Yeah,
Ryan.
I did right here. But then I erased it.
Yeah? Okay. So this one, pay attention, right? If you didn't get it, that's okay. We're still practicing.
I got it.
So if I say 2 is first, do I go up and down first or left and right first? Left and right, because the X is the fat sumo, right, who's gotten squished. So we do the sumo first. It doesn't make sense to think it's the sumo that went to space, right? The sumo comes before the rocket ship. So here we go 2. So am I going to go here or am I going to go this way? Right. To +2. And then after, if I have 0, do I go up or down? I can't go up or down, so I stay there.
How did they even make sumo wrestlers? Like, how did they become so fat?
They're pretty muscular, actually.
They're fat.
Okay.
It's Gibraltar from
Remember
Apex
Jaden's
Legends.
voices?
What?
Remember Jaden's voices?
Oh my goodness.
So if you did it all on the same one, it should look something like this.
Oh, look,
Okay.
I'm like a square.
No,
What?
Elmo.
If you all did it on the same one. If you didn't, then it doesn't make sense.
Trippy.
Okay, now I want you to do, 0, 4.
Wait, is this all on 1 or 2?
It doesn't matter.
It's easier for you to do it on
0, 4?
0, 4.
The next one's 2-0.
I like this.
Oh, no, we have 2-0.
What color should I use?
Would you girls do this? 0-4? Wait, that's the next one, 0-4?
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear when we did 0? I added up.
And then after one of you is going to come up and you're going to show with your fingers and explain how you got 0, 4.
Okay.
Okay? And then the class is going to have some sort of like, if you've ever seen like Survivor or something, a vote on yes or no if the answer was correct.
Oh no, that's scary.
Okay?
Oh, what is
I'm gonna
Survivor?
So who would like to go up?
What?
Me.
Come on.
I will do this. Okay.
Well, she was chosen.
Wait, I
Did you do it on your paper?
Yep, I did
Why
it.
am I the only one who's giving a negative answer?
Okay, So she's gonna come up. She's gonna show you how she got her answer, and then we're gonna have this whole like tribal council vote, okay, where you get to say yes, she got it right or wrong. Okay.
Bring your torch and get.
So the coordinate, we're listening to Amani, is 0, 4.
Okay, I did it. So this is the x-axis and that's the y-axis. So the x-axis it's a 0. So you're starting in the center, and then the y-axis you're going up to 4. So it would be like right
So it should be there. Did you see? So her finger was here where my mouse is, if you can see. Okay?
I was right.
So do we think that she's right, or do we think that she's wrong, or do we think she's halfway there?
Right.
Right.
Let's go.
So we all think Amani is correct? So are we ready for the dun dun dun?
She's not
0, comma,
She's not.
4.
You are not the father.
That doesn't.
What?
First, she's not the father. She's a
So
woman.
this is Amani's.
What?
Wait, say that again.
Okay?
Of course, she's not the father. She's a woman. Makes sense, right?
Doesn't make sense, Brian.
Maybe
We're gonna move on.
She's the mother. That would make sense, but like
Okay.
that's not the
Right,
father.
So how do we feel about that?
Good. Don't talk about Jane and she's doing that.
Do we feel okay?
I feel good.
I can
Okay.
kick my eraser down the hall.
So I'm gonna just erase these because then it gets complicated. So the next thing that we're doing is tables. Okay?
Get off your phone, Jaden.
I thought it was gonna be my turn.
Jaden, up here.
Uh-oh, stinky.
Okay.
You can't, like, put them right in front of me. Can you slide somewhere else?
Uh-oh.
Nice on his phone.
Okay.
So here
You got demonetization.
we have a table. Okay? Do you see how we have a table?
No.
I'm just gonna draw out the same exact table here.
No.
And I'm going to go X, Y, and I recommend you write this on your paper too. And here I'm going to write -5, 0, and 4.
Minecraft is better.
Wait, what's happening?
Like what?
This is a table. So this I'm going to call table number 1. Okay?
Table of Zoom. Table of Zoomers.
Okay, Brian.
So here on my table, it's classified into 2 columns. Do we know what a column is?
No.
Have you ever seen like the Colosseum before?
No.
Right? And the Colosseum is like held up by columns.
No.
Right? So the columns are what go up and down. So I never remember what column versus row is. Row is from left to right, columns up and down. But if you think of a Colosseum and you think of a column, right, you think that they're built up and down. So columns here, we have column X and column Y. Okay? Make sense?
No.
So on the X side, I have 3 numbers. Okay?
Oh yeah, that guy drives.
That guy's gonna get caught by the cops.
But most importantly, right, he's wasting a lot of gasoline. So if you're trying to save money, that's not really the best idea.
And that's needs to go
Is
somewhere.
that always how you think when you're like a math teacher?
That's not how I always think, but it's true though, right? I think that's the joke is like every time you rev, oh, it's like $5 down the drain, you know? Maybe it's not $5, but like,
It's, like
It's
a
still a
color
waste of
all the
money.
time, so you
You're
go-
not losing.
I don't
Honey.
Okay. no. So here, this is where the algebra comes in, okay? But this is not stressful algebra, okay? They're gonna give you an equation, which is y is equal to x plus 3. And I want us to start thinking, okay, that y equals x plus 3 is some sort of machine. Okay? All right? So I'm going to put something into the machine, and I'm going to get something out of the machine. Right? Just like a real machine.
Conversion.
Let me watch that Suction Cup now.
Just like a real machine, right? We put something into the machine does something, and it comes out. Right? Does that make sense?
Yup.
So here, what we put in are our x's. Okay? So let's start with 4. Okay? So 4 is what we're putting into our machine. So I have a 4 here. I'm putting it into the machine. So where is x equal to 4? What can I do with that? Where do I put it into the machine?
Where X is.
So where the x is, right? So in real life, what I'm doing is just replacing this with a 4.
It's like replacing a light bulb.
And then after I solve my machine. So here I have y is equal to 4 plus 3. 4 plus 3 is 7. Okay? So this is what I put in. What came out from the machine is a 7.
You already have 7 seconds too? Whoa.
Well, maybe not that long. Okay? So now I erase this because I'm obviously just showing you how the machine works. And I'm going to replace it with an x. Okay? So the machine is refreshed. I restarted. Sounds good? Let's do the 0 next. So if I put a 0 into my machine,
3 would come up.
so this is the 0 now. 0 plus 3 is 3. So I put in a 0. This is where I put in my 0. Y is equal to 0 plus 3, so I get 3. So I put in 0, I get 3 now. Okay?
Yep.
How do we feel about that?
Good.
Good. So what I want us to do now is that you're going to do the minus 5. So I want you to put minus 5 into the same machine.
You dropped your finger.
Bo, that's not even necessary.
It's a phone.
Okay? So I want us to solve. This means that you're working. This means that you're putting some effort into your learning. Okay? This means that we tried. If I put a minus 5 into in this machine, what do I get?
Mystery.
Why do you say it out loud?
Why not?
So let's do a tribal council vote since Sierra just said it. Do we think Sierra's right or do we think she's wrong?
No.
Yeah, she's right.
No. It's right.
Why'd you have to yell like that?
So someone who said yes, like Connor,
Huh?
right?
No.
Connor, you said yes or you
I
said
said
no?
she is right.
Okay. So Ryan, why was she right? What did she do in her head?
Well, you put the negative 5 into the machine,
Yeah?
then replace the x with the negative 5.
Yeah?
Then you do the equation,
Okay.
negative 5 plus 3, which will equal negative
Good job. So this is a minus 2. Okay? So now, each row, right? Just like how I told you x comma y is a coordinate. Do you see the x and y here?
Oh, those are common.
Right? So now these are coordinates. I'll charge it. Okay. So in your graph, I want you to plot all of these coordinates. So a new graph is minus 5, minus 2. That's your first one. Your second one is 0, 3. And then your third one is 4, 7. Okay? So those are your 3 coordinates. And then you should notice something, but if you notice something, I don't want you to say it out loud. Okay?
It is.
Oh.
It's a number.
So put in the 3 coordinates and you'll notice something.
In a different.
I don't want you to say it.
Graphics.
If you do all 3, you'll notice something.
If I watch the Beauty and the Beast, is that what you said? I know what it is. It's something like that.
Oh.
But John, I want you to draw this on your graph. I gave you the graph paper. So the first coordinate is minus 5, minus 2.
That was really easy.
The second coordinate is 0, 3. The third coordinate is 4, 7.
No, right here.
Yawn. Give it to me.
We should do Kahoot math problems.
Kahoot.
That means,
It's hard to do with graphing.
but not with graphics, like your algebra. Like
Yeah, but algebra. Yeah.
you have 2.5 minutes to solve.
So who graphed all three of these coordinates?
I did.
Okay.
Me, can I do it? I wanna
So
do
first,
something.
what we're gonna do the tribal council. Dun dun dun. So we have -5. Well, here, actually, you do it. Yeah, Connor, you come up. You do the first one.
I called dibs before.
Well, Brian, you're gonna do the second one. So you should have 0, 3 prepared.
I'm in the restroom.
Yeah. Okay. So Connor, where is -5, -2?
Good question.
Let me zoom in for you.
Okay, so because it's a negative, you're gonna be going to the left. So this is the x and y.
Yeah.
So 5, yeah. And then from 5, you're gonna go 1, 2.
No.
So do we agree with Connor or not?
Yup. I'm smart.
So why don't we agree with Connor?
Negative sections. Any
Oh wait, yeah, wait.
So now do we
Yeah.
agree with
It's
now
smart.
do we agree with Connor?
I have to fix my answer, but
Yeah. Okay. So if we put it in -5, -2, yeah, that was Connor's answer.
Don't worry. It's because you're.
I don't think I can label it. Okay. Who would like to come test their
Me.
knowledge?
She
Tashaya.
would.
Let's go to China.
So 0, 3.
Oh, poor Ryan.
Yeah.
Well, he went to the washroom. So do we agree with Tashaya? So here is where she said she wants it. So 0, 3.
No.
No, it goes right now.
There you go, Tashaya. Let's go.
So do we agree here?
Yup.
So what was the mistake? This is a common mistake. That's why we're
She
practicing.
followed the X.
So she did 3, 0
Yes.
instead of 0, 3. She did it the other way around. Remember, the sumo comes before the rocket.
Yeah, I did it.
So 0, 3. Okay, so we see it's right here. And our last one, we have to zoom out a bit. Bo, do you want to come to it? Sarah, you do the next one. Is that okay? So Bo, I want you to find 4, 7.
It's not there.
Non-existent.
Look in between the numbers. Boom.
4.
Yeah, is there?
And then move it up into the middle.
Yeah.
So there's 6. So halfway in between 6 and 8, right?
There you
So
go.
about here.
Good
Do we agree with Bo?
Yay!
I agree with Bo too.
Bravo.
Okay? So what do we notice?
Why is it on the 8? Oh, because you put 8.
Oh, sorry. 4, 7, right?
Imagine.
So what do we notice about these 3 dots?
They're diagonal.
So if you would connect them,
It's a
right,
triangle.
they would, it's not a triangle, it's just a line. So our machine, okay, I don't know if this won't make sense to you, but our machine is a line, right? So every time that we're telling the machine to calculate something, what we're really doing is say, where does, right, if we go back to this, where does -5 exist on this line? Okay, that'll make more sense, right? Bo, put it back in the recycling. Okay? So if we type in our machine, this is going to be the trippy part. What was our machine?
It was a number. It's
But what was the equation?
y equals x plus 3.
So what do you think is going to happen when I type that in?
It's going to make, I don't know.
Someone's like behind me.
A line that connects all 3 of the points. Okay?
You can do that on the. That's pretty cool.
Do you see that?
Let me do
Okay?
Oh, I see.
Do you see how the line connects the points? So that's what the machine is telling us. Okay? I want us to start developing this idea because in grade 9, this is what you're going to study for a good portion of grade 9.
Is it my turn yet?
Okay? But we won't need to go that far yet. What I want you to do now, right, is to be able to complete the tables. Okay? So what we're going to do in teams of 2. Okay? If you want to work by yourself, that's okay, but I'd rather teams of 2. I'm going to give you this question here. Okay? Number 5. So this is your machine. This is your table, and I want you to graph. Okay? This is your machine.
Is that a
-3.
-3? Okay.
I don't have one of those fancy papers. Is that 2x minus
2x minus 3. I'll zoom in. Okay? And that's your table. So in pairs, I want you to, what's this first step? Right? To fill out the table. We need to fill out the table, or else am I just going to graph random numbers? That doesn't make sense, right? So we need to fill out the table. So you and your partner should help each other. Okay? It's called collaboration. Working together.
Have you seen the Dora movie?
No,
Oh my
You should
god.
watch it.
No! You're lying.
I have not
You
seen
have
it.
saw it. You have saw it.
I have seen it.
You have saw it.
You have seen
You
it.
have some. That's English accent like.
You have good English.
I am good. I am.
After this
better-
question.
I have the better English.
No, I am better Englisher than you, sir.
No me. I am the better English.
Me got weapony.
And one team is going to be chosen at random to come present their answers.
Which gonna be my team and watch.
It's Bo that's left.
Yay. Bottom of the barrel. Oh, wanna work together?
Melina?
Oh.
Okay, now the next thing is X
And then
Two times for driving.
Okay, so if you're working together, I'm going to work together. Make your table. Put your little mini hands in place.
I spell my name with an A.
Oh.
A. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have, you don't do the white.
I'm already done.
So make your table, so -2.
Excuse me, Miss Hop.
No,
Yeah.
I think I have some.
So doing 2x negative 3.
Yep.
Let's say it's 2 negative 1 negative 3.
No.
No?
That's 2 minus 1 minus 3.
Yeah. No.
So the 2 and the x are multiplied,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you can go 2 bracket minus 1, right? Minus 3.
Very straight line.
Okay, thank you.
You can put it.
Second number. One.
No, I'm doing the second one.
I already. Yeah, me and I've already done it.
Yeah?
That's simple.
Did you notice something again? Do your points line up? So if your points line up, that's a good sign.
Which one is it?
I just did it in my head.
I'm having trouble with the second one because, like, you know how you replace the number with X?
Yeah.
X with the number.
But these are glued together, so there's multiplication between the glue, right? Do you remember that? This is 2 times x. So whatever you put in as x, you have to multiply by the 2.
Oh.
So this is 2 times -1 minus 3.
I told you, Ryan. I was confused.
Yeah, but stay with Connor. Do all of them line up? Do they line up?
Oh, do they line up?
Because if they don't line up, then you're wrong.
Where's your paper? And I don't see a table. Is this your table?
I got negative 2. I got negative 2.
Oh,
They do line up.
no wait, you forgot to do it.
Use a ruler.
Connor is absolutely
Hey guys. Okay, team belt.
I can kick my eraser across the hall.
Why would you do that?
Cause why not?
It's a couple one.
It's a minus. Good.
Because here's your number line. There's -1 here. And you're going okay. So it's 2 times.
I'm level 44. It's pretty nice.
Then what's the last one? -2.
44. It's also x plus 0.
I don't think it's just that.
It would be nice though. I wonder if people are still nice.
Does any team want to present their findings?
No.
So what you're going to do, you're going to be the fancy teacher and you're going to use this.
Ooh, Jaden, get your paper before I.
So I'm going to write out your machine.
But this is still recording.
Yeah.
Hello.
Well, you're going to sit down and you're going to do it.
Ooh, I'm sitting down on the big boy chair.
Yeah.
Chair.
What did you get as an answer?
Hello, camera.
Because it makes you.
Okay, so now we're going to listen to the two gentlemen who are going to teach us.
Actually,
Hey Jaden, can you don't?
Why are you like being a clown?
clown.
Yeah, clown.
No one wants to see you, Jaden.
You
Thank you.
can't just,
Wow.
you have to,
Ah, on YouTube. Well, they just did.
you're going to have to write it like,
Yeah.
I don't know. What you?
Hey,
Oh,
Jaden,
it's crooked. Why don't you just make it straight?
No.
you can't, but you can't just change the paper.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now the gentlemen are going to show us how they solve the problem. Okay?
Well, I have to sit in the big boy chair. Okay. So
Alright,
it's
they're
not-
sitting on lap.
You have to show how you got the answer though for each one.
Okay.
Crush my leg.
Sure. So everyone ready? Everyone ready?
Into that. His
So-
legs broke.
First things first is because you got this is the machine.
His
Yep.
legs broke.
So with the machine you're gonna do.
Are we listening to Connor or is he wasting his time?
Yup. 2 times -1 minus 3 equals -5. So you place that in your table.
Who got -5 is that?
Yep. My writing's
I
really bad. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Don't
So
worry
here,
about it.
what, 1 second Connor.
Yep.
This is right,
Move your hand. Move your hand.
okay?
Sorry.
The 2 and the x, right, are touching, which means it's multiplication. So if we sub something in, if we put our -1 into the machine, we can't forget that it was multiplied, right? So it's 2, no,
I'm just turning
2 times -1. So that's what he did here. 2 bracket, and then you can put in the -1, -3.
Okay.
Okay? So 2 times -1 was -2. So I'm at -2 degrees, and it goes 3 degrees lower, so at -5. Okay? For the second one, what did you do?
So the next one's pretty much the same equation, but I replaced the -1 with a +1.
Yeah.
And that
So do you see how Connor set up a way, right, with his brackets, that it's always the same machine, and you just pull it out, right? Or you erase it and you write in a new number. Okay? If you have a calculator where you can see what you're doing and you can go back with your arrows to adjust it, right? This is especially easy. Okay?
Yes, I have that.
And then that would equal to -1.
So here he did 2 times 1 is 2. It's a mirror. Minus 3. 2 minus 3 is minus 1.
What?
Go ahead.
2 here times 1. 2 times 1 is 2. If I have 2 and I take away 3, I'm at -1. Okay?
That looks like a division sign.
Okay.
So if you didn't get it right, we're fixing it. Right? That's the point.
And the next one is.
So you can write your -1 here.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Alright, I mixed it up. For this one we put.
Jaden, do you want to do the last
Yeah,
one?
Jaden. Yeah.
He is gonna
Yeah,
have
you do my
fun with the writing.
So we did 2.
No, it's not negative. It's not negative. It's just.
No.
It's just,
Why did you put it negative?
bruh.
You're subbing in the 3, right?
Yeah. You're subbing in the 3, not the -1.
God damn, Connor.
Okay, so Jaden
Confusing
here
me.
put in the 3. So 2 times 3 is 6. Minus 3 is
3.
3. So here, 3, and then your y is 3. Okay.
Oh,
Sounds good? Thank you, gentlemen. Round of applause for the boys. They just taught their first class, future teachers. I'm just kidding, boys. You can do whatever you want with your lives.
and
Okay. So here, so I'm going to put in the same points, -1. Actually, let's do someone else who's going to show us how to plot it. Okay?
Can I do it?
So,
No,
who would like to plot the first one?
no.
Morris. Do you have it written down? Okay. So do the -1, -5.
No.
-1 is here. And
Ow.
1
You can do that.
is here.
No, what?
Oh wait, oh, this is -1 negative. It's here.
So do we agree? Are we paying attention to Morris that came up and did it for us? Or are we just going to pretend that he did it right? What happened if I told him to do it wrong?
You did it, but like Dash.
Yeah. What? The pass is there. So how did you plot it, Morris?
First by x, -1, so
Bo?
I went here.
Once I'm sorry.
What is he even trying to find now?
We're plotting the first coordinate of -1, -5. Bo, that does not belong in your hands. You put it there. Put it where you found it. Right? It's one thing to talk over when I'm talking, but when one of your classmates comes up and is doing their best and actually has the right answer and is trying to show you how to do the question in a way that you understand, the least you can do, right, is be quiet and listen.
I found it backward.
All right?
Ow.
So now Morris is going to show us how to plot the first one here if we go back -1, -5. Okay?
For -1, it's on x, so I looked here and it went here.
Yeah?
-5, I went down and it's here.
So do we agree with him?
Yup.
Yeah, I think he gets the green flag. Okay? So if I put in -1 here, -5 here, we conclude that he was correct. Okay? Who would like to come up to do the second one? Someone that hasn't come up, Sierra. So you're going to do 1 -1. This one here. Okay?
So, x-axis,
Yeah?
and the 1's be here,
Yeah?
and then the -1 would be here, somewhere right there.
So do we agree with Sierra where her finger is? So 1 -1?
Yup.
Do we all agree?
Yo.
Bo? Do we agree with Sierra? Or did we not listen to what she was saying?
I had no idea what she said.
So we're plotting right now 1 -1.
Yeah.
Okay? So she's going to do it one more time, and I want you to pay attention, Bo. And
So-
Brian, too.
I'm looking.
Look at Sierra. Okay?
The 1 is here, and then the -1 is right there, so it'll be right there.
So do you boys agree
No.
where her finger is?
Yeah.
So if you don't agree, Brian, then I want to write the right answer.
I did right. I did say yes. It was just my other part of me that said no.
Okay.
So
Right.
my bad.
So let's see if she got it right. 1 minus 1. So Sierra's is here. Okay. Good job. Who would like to do the last one?
Me.
Brian would.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. So the point here is 3, 3. Okay? But I'm going to pay attention to how you do it because I want to know which one you did first. Okay?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring this as well. Thank you very much. You can do it. Yep.
Okay. So I want you to find 3, 3 on this graph.
Tiny one. 3, 3. 3, 3 is right over here.
So what did you do first?
Mental calculation because X is sumo and Y is rocket ship.
Okay. So what did you do? Show me what's in your brain. What did you do to get to that point?
Because in between it's here, it's
Yeah.
3.
So you did the
and
sumo
that's
first?
3 as well.
Yeah.
Then it's right here.
Okay. So do we agree with Brian?
Yup.
Do we think that 3, 3 is there?
Yup.
I think so too. So 3, 3. So now it looks like they line up, right?
No.
They look like they're in a straight line. If I zoom out like this, it looks like it's in a straight line, right? So if I plug in my machine, right, which is just a line, they should all line up with my machine. Okay? So if I do y is equal to 2x minus 3. Do they all line? What?
Yes, they do.
Oh, sorry. Do they all line up with the line? You can see that the green ones are actually here. Right? So did we get it right?
Yup.
Absolutely 100%. Okay? You should not the only way that you know how to plot this, right, and make a line is if you would do all 3 and then after take your ruler and just draw a line through it. Okay?
That's what I did.
Sounds good?
Yup.
Yeah.
Okay. It's 12:09.
Oh, can
So we have, well, we have 5 minutes left. So what I want to do
Music.
is maybe one more piece of information. It's not going to be a question, it's a piece of information. And then after, we can have the rest as free time. Because we didn't have the break today and I promised a break.
My music.
Okay? So here, okay? So this here is called a Cartesian plane. That's a fancy word for something that we don't necessarily need to know. What we do need to remember, though, is that this is a quadrant. So you know when you were playing, what's that game? Foursquare. You know, like on the school ground, and it's like 4 squares, and then you're like either the Joker, the Queen, the King, and you have a ball.
We never played
What is that called?
Champ.
Or champ, right? And you're divided into. You've never played that game before?
No, I don't have champ.
Yup.
I don't think so.
I played it.
I had a right about this.
I think it's called Foursquare.
I call it champ.
Oh my gosh, I used to love that show. Oh my god. I used to love that show.
But you've never seen this before?
I've seen it, but
With the
I've
4
never
kids
played it.
Oh, I've seen that.
Is it show
like
up?
this.
I've
Maybe.
never heard of this company.
Yeah, I know how to
So do you see how there's 4 squares?
Yeah.
So that's how it's split up, right? When we go back to Desmos, I have 1 square here, 1 square down here, 1 here, and 1 here. Okay?
That's confusing. You said my wife.
So there's 4 squares. One here, one here, one here, one here. Okay? So let's say 5 comma 5 is going to be in quadrant number 1. Negative 5, 5 is going to be in quadrant 2. Negative 5, oops, sorry. Negative 5, oops, negative 5, negative 5 is in quadrant 3.
Waiting for my
And the last one is 5, negative 5, quadrant 4. Okay? And what you'll notice is that for any combination of pluses or minuses, so if they're both positive, they both have to be in quadrant 1, right? So if it's 3, 1, if it's 4, 2, anything, it's here. If the x is negative, but the y is positive, it's going to be here. If both are negative, they all have to be in here. And if x is positive, it's on this side, and y is negative, then it'll be in quadrant 4.
Yes.
Okay? So I would recommend writing this down with the 4 quadrants so that you can remember. This is only to help, right? Because if you can plot really fast and you just do this, like for example, it's not just 5 and 5, right? But that's what I used in my head to give an example for you guys. But if you just remember the example and you're able to plot fast, then you should be able to remember it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Sounds good? So that's it for today. We're going to stop the recording.